Welcome to Satsang. So beautiful to have you all here, to be together in this sacred place at this beautiful time, and to have this beautiful opportunity to dive together into truth. So we, as always, take one of our questions that comes in advance, and then we will open it up to any questions that any of you have. So starting with one that's come in advance from our online, internet-based family. Please tell me, such good questions, it's always hard to decide which one, but please tell me about love. What is love? This is asked by Bule Bongo. Love is the energy that makes everything possible. We think of love in a very small way. We think of love as one person for another person. And that too, typically it's either a romantic love or it's a family love. But love is so much more than that. Love is the energy through which literally everything is created, through which everything happens. When you see a flower open its petals to the sun, that's love. When you see a tree give juicy fruit and a child pick it and eat it, that's love. Love is all of that literally makes the universe flow. You know, we've got so many energies of this physical realm. We have energies of gravity, we have energies of light, we have energies of sound. They're all helpful and useful and beneficial in many ways. But the energy of love, I think, is the most important energy of it all, because you think, well, that's actually what binds us to ourselves, to each other, to the Creator, to the creation. It's that which compels us, impels us forward. You know, one of the other questions that I was debating which one to start with, it actually works to weave it in here, because it says, there's so much abject poverty and violence in the world. Why does every person have such different starting points? And that's asked from our sister Jennifer. And it's so interesting because it seems like a completely different question. And yet, this poverty and violence that we see is exactly what happens when we stop living from love. When we don't allow the energy of love to flow through us, not only do we harm ourselves in our minds, in our hearts, in the boxes that we create of our lives, but we cut ourselves off from quite literally the breath of life itself. Life is not just the oxygen we take in. It's not just prana. It's actually a flow of love. Because there's certainly plenty of people in the world and throughout history who had hearts that beat, actual muscles of hearts that beat, that had lungs that expanded and contracted. They were alive by all practical purposes. And yet they were so devoid of the flow of love. That aside from the harm they created to others that rippled across the world in different ways, their lives were miserable. And in being devoid of love, they brought pain and suffering to others. So love is the energy that literally moves the world in the direction that the world is meant to be. You know, gravity can have a very helpful impact. It's great. It keeps us on the ground rather than floating above it. But anyone who's ever fallen out of a tree or off a roof knows it can also hurt. All of the other energies of the world are just energies. They can either help us or hurt us. They can be used to heal, they can be used to harm. You look at fire, you look at sound, you look at electricity, you look at magnetism. I mean, all of the other energies that we have. But love may very well be, I've never thought about it like this, but love may very well be the only energy of the world that only works to our advantage. And that when that energy doesn't flow, life cannot flow in the way it is meant to be. It is as critical to life as life is meant to be lived, as water and oxygen are to the actual cells of our physical body. So yeah, that's what love is. And the good news is that, you know, oxygen and water we have to get from outside. We don't create them inside of us. Love, we create inside. We don't have to be a beggar for love. Doesn't cost any money. There's no discrimination of like, you know, poor people don't have it, rich people do have it. There's no distribution issues. We actually produce that which we need. And so it's this incredibly critical energy of life. And yet we produce it. Therefore, if we live devoid of love, it's because we made that decision, consciously, unconsciously. But we've done it. We are the cause of the problem, and we are the solution. If you want more love in your life, create it. Our love manufacturing plant is inside. It's within us. Other people can be catalysts, but that love is inside of us. So, yeah, in this coming of the new year, it's a beautiful resolution for ourselves, but also for the world. If the poverty hurts your heart, if the violence hurts your heart, if human rights abuses hurt your heart, if climate change, global warming, species extinction, loss of biodiversity, loss of the Amazon, whatever it may be, if any of that hurts your heart in any way, love is the answer. Because when we feel love, we live with love. And then we share healing with the world. So it might very well be the most magical force on the planet. Yeah, beautiful. Other questions? Yes.
Jai Gange Sadhviji.
Jai Gange.
My name is Anuradha. I have come from Delhi NCR.
Can you speak just a little bit louder? Yeah, उनकी volume बढ़ा दो भैया. धन्यवाद.
Yeah. Should I repeat?
No, I think we're good.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure everybody can hear you.
So my question arose from yesterday's satsang.
Sure.
And then even just now what you said. So I want to be able to respond and not react. But so many times I react, and sometimes I do respond, and I like that feeling when I respond and things work. But also what I'm struggling with, things that bother your heart, right? And which trouble you. So I am unable to learn to respond to them. For instance, if I'm walking on the road and if I see someone ill-treating a child, I'm unable to hold my anger. And from yesterday's satsang, then anger results in anger and more anger, and nothing happens. Similarly, if somebody is driving rashly and I happen to be around, I'm not able to respond, I react. Whereas if somebody is littering, I'm able to respond. I'm able to do it in a more humorous manner that, why are you littering? Sometimes there is a conversation, an argument, but I don't react.
Yeah.
So what I have realized is that wherever things which are really close to my heart and they pain, I am unable to learn to respond. I react with anger, and then I have been told by a lot of people that, what's wrong with you? It just happens. You can just walk away, but I'm unable to do that.
Yeah.
And it hurts me. If you can help me, guide me, that would be really helpful.
Yeah. That journey from reaction to responding.
Yeah.
A huge piece of it is what I was talking about in the Arati today, about being in the present moment. If I am here, grounded, anchored, present, mindful, I'm in my breath, I'm fully conscious in the moment, you will have a much better chance of not getting thrown off your grounding. When we react, we are literally, it's like we are uprooted in a way and tossed into a storm. That's what happens. And it feels like that sometimes. Like I was anchored, literally I was rooted in the ground, and now I'm, swirling in a tornado. So the more anchored you can be with to begin with, through practices of mindfulness. And it is a practice. It is something that you get better at. And you learn. So if I'm sitting here practicing mindfulness, let's say, and I feel there's an ant, and the ant is crawling up my nose. Well, I'm just going to notice it. I'm not going to swipe it off. I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to notice it. I'm going to allow. I'm aware. Yeah, there's an ant on my nose. And that practice of just being aware of things, or my hip hurts, my knee is burning. You obviously don't want to go too far. You don't want to let yourself get injured. But there's so much benefit in developing a practice of just watching. And we anchor ourselves in the one who is aware, or rather even in the awareness itself, on even a deeper level, rather than anchoring in the itch, the pain. I'm just the observer. I am that consciousness. I am that awareness. And, along the way, I am the one who's aware. So we go step by step. It's a fantastic practice. It will help you in every area of life. But I think you should look at the examples you gave me of where you react. Because more powerful than our mindfulness practice is the evolution of our nervous system. Right? You start practicing mindfulness today, a year from now you've got 365 days chalked up if you've been good about it. Your nervous system has been evolving for a few billion years. It's got a big head start on your meditative practice. And being in the car and having suddenly somebody who's driving rashly, erratically, dangerously, that is a survival instinct that you have to react. You are the offspring of the ancestors who reacted because they got out of the lane fast enough. So your response comes from a clear, calm mind. It's fantastic as you move through the world full of annoyances and difficulties and ups and downs. It is lethal if it's because a car has just cut you off. If you don't react, you die or you're injured. That reaction that happens long before you've had a chance to actually think is what saves your life. And so don't be so hard on yourself. You may have a bit of an overactive nervous system response, which some of us do. There's wonderful work by a woman, her name is, give me a moment. It's something like Dr. Deb Dana, or something like that, on working with the vagus nerve through breath to actually change how your nervous system reacts, responds. Which if you notice that, for example, you're in a car full of 4 people, somebody dangerously cuts you off, and you, whether you're the driver or a passenger, react in a way that is much, much, much more than anybody else, like nobody else's nervous system started firing that they were going to die, but yours did. It might be really interesting work for you because that it goes onto a very deep level of that nervous system. But this, somebody threatens your life, you react. That's evolutionarily advantageous. Somebody is beating a child or harming a child. Even though that child didn't come directly out of your womb, as a woman, whether you have actual children or not children, you are the archetype of a mother. And that level of, when we think about like archetype consciousness, it's there to protect kids. And the reaction that you have as a mother to protect a child in danger, again, is something that A, is evolutionarily advantageous, and B, has come from a long line of ancestors throughout all of evolution. So don't feel badly about those. The only check that I would give you is compare to others, and if you notice that your reaction is much more than those around you, it could be really good to do this work. It's very, very beautiful work that she does of accessing kind of 4 different states of our nervous system and how to get from one into another. It's beautiful, beautiful work. The other last piece that I would mention is typically nervous system responses are very short-lived. They're there, they save our life, the danger is over, we calm down. You mentioned hanging on to it. Now again, I would check in with yourself, because if you are hanging on to it, then there is an additional problem. But if you're finding that it just takes a few minutes for your nervous system to kind of recalibrate, then that's again just the recalibration of a nervous system that has responded to essentially survival. Your survival and the survival of our children, who are quite literally the survival of the planet. There's nothing wrong with that until and unless it becomes a hindrance in your life. You know, I would hope that even the Buddha, as sort of the embodiment of one who has mastered better than anybody the art of mindfulness, the art of being calm and present and responding, that if he were crossing a road, chances are he didn't, drive a car, but if he were crossing and a buggy, a horse, whatever vehicles there were at that time where he was, suddenly darted in front of him, that his nervous system also would react to pull him out of danger, rather than require the amount of time that it would take to go through a conscious process of, I notice that speeding thing coming at me. I notice that it is much larger than I am. I notice that its velocity is increasing. By the time you notice all that, you're splat on the ground. So I don't think that is something that doesn't go with deep spirituality. But do pay attention, A, whether people around you are reacting much less, at which point it might be a signal that you're overreacting. Or 2, whether you are holding on to it much later. Because both situations that you gave me do require a response. You need to get out of the lane this crazy guy has just come into, and you need to do whatever you can do to get this child out of danger. The highest spiritual aim and goal is not, oh God, let me walk by a child who's being abused without reacting. I mean, that's like essentially saying, okay, please God, could you remove my humanity? We should get upset about that. Now, you don't want to lose yourself, because then you react very poorly. And then you're not actually of any help to the child or the one who is abusing the child. So you need to be calm and grounded and centered and mindful enough to be effective. Because just shouting and screaming, who the hell do you think you are? What do you think you're doing? Get your hands off the kid. It may help the kid for 30 seconds, and the minute you turn the corner, they're going to get beaten again. But the internal reaction that says that is a problem, if that can catalyze you into a modulated response that is helpful, not just in the moment, but in the long term, to that relationship, that's of incredible benefit. Simply learning to walk by and be unaffected isn't what we're here for. Yes, of course. Yes.
First of all, thank you so much for all the great work that you do here. My name's Rafi. I've been reading lots of the scriptures and was wondering if you could clarify a few things for me. So I'm a bit confused about a few terms. That's Prana, Brahma, and Shakti.
Okay, Prana, Shakti, what was the middle one?
Brahma.
Brahma.
Yeah.
Okay. Prana, Brahma, Shakti.
Yes.
Okay. So they're all interwoven. Let's begin with Brahma, because he is the creator after all. Brahma is, well, I'm going to take a step back. In the Hindu tradition, we believe that there is nothing but God. So it's not this God, that God, this God. We are not a polytheistic religion. We are not even a monotheistic religion, in the idea of there is one God sitting somewhere with a specific set of characteristics or qualities or actions. We believe there is nothing but God. Okay. Out of that infinite presence of the divine, there are 3 actions that take place: creation, sustenance, and dissolution or destruction. Cycle of life, whether it's a human being, whether it's a tree, whether it's an animal, anything that is created, whether they have a lifespan of a day or 100 years or 1,000 years, goes through that process. They are created, they are sustained, and at some point they dissolve and go back into the elements. Brahma is the embodiment of the power of creation. Shakti is energy, literally. That's what the word means. Literally, it's energy. However, when we speak about the aspects of the divine, Brahma the creator, Vishnu the sustainer, Shiva the one who dissolves or destroys, there is always an aspect of Shakti with them, which is you can think of it, we use terms like male and female, and yet when you're speaking about the divine, they don't really apply, but just for the sake of ease of understanding, you can think about it as like a masculine principle or a feminine principle. We speak sometimes about Purush and Prakriti. Prakriti being that which is creation, nature. So Shakti is the energy through which Brahma creates, Vishnu sustains, and Shiva dissolves or destroys. And that Shakti is embodied, of course, by different goddesses. But Shakti is that energy through which all of it happens. And it's the feminine principle. Prana is at the most basic. There's obviously very, very intricate ways of going into all of these terms so that we could do, a few-week course on just each of these terms. But for the sake for now, prana is our life force. Sometimes people use it synonymously with breath, as in pranayam, working with the breath, but it's deeper than breath. It's not just the oxygen we take in. It is actually a force within us. We have several different pranas within us that operate in different ways, flows in different directions. I'm not going to get into all of that now, but if you study yoga, maybe over the next few days you'll have a class in which they'll go into different asanas, different, not just pranayam techniques, but the different ways that prana flows. So it is a life force within us. Prana is associated, not identical, not synonymous, but associated also with atma, jivatma or soul. When the prana leaves the body, is the time that the soul leaves the body. It is the time that the person goes from being a person to being, quite literally, a body. It's that time of death. So the prana is that which literally keeps us alive as long as the soul still has a karmic package to work out through this body. Okay? Make sense? Good. Yes, of course. Other questions? Yes.
Jai Gange. Namaskar. My name is Rohit Bhardwaj, and I have been seeking spirituality for the last 5 years, actively for the last 3 years.
Wonderful.
And in this journey, in the back and forth of whether I'm seeking my guru or my guru is seeking me, as famously said, how righteous it is to, as you just mentioned, a context about how our ancestors have reacted. We are the results of that. And I believe that sometimes when we get into the mode of sadhana, then we lose it, then we get it, and then we get tired of starting over every time, like snake and ladder. And in that journey, the thought that comes in my mind that it's probably because of my past life karma, it is happening that the loop is not closed somehow, and I don't know what the loop is, where the loop is, because I don't have the guru as well yet, right? So how righteous it is to take the help of past life regression therapy to learn about your past life and see if guru is really allowing me to be on this path, or I can meet the guru in this life in some way. That's my one question. And second would be, what is the best story, or what can I hear from you in terms of handling your intellect?
In terms of, I'm sorry?
Handling your intellect in terms of balancing your manasa, balancing everything that comes under intellect, yeah.
So let's take your first question first. Yes, everything that is happening to you is happening because of your past karmas. That is just the science of life. We are exactly where we are because of the karmas that we have done in the past. You find yourself falling, getting up again, falling, getting up again. So, welcome to the human package. Have a little bit more compassion for the self. Stop trying to figure out why things are as they are, and start just allowing yourself to be. Because all of the time that we spend in our mind, why this? Oh, what did I do in my past? What did I do in the past that's brought this? Why this? Why that? What it does is it keeps us out of the present moment. And all of spirituality is about being in the present moment. Now, can past life regression be helpful? It's not something I've ever done. It's something that I've known a lot of people who have done. Some people have found some benefit, some have not. I'm not against it as a practice at all. On a personal level, every time the opportunity to do it has arisen, I've always felt like, you know what? I still have so much more to learn about this life. Like, when I get this life under control, when I feel like, yeah, done, like I'm totally done with in this life. I've worked everything out. I've cleared all of my karmic debts. I have, worked through or meditated through all of my issues or challenges or neuroses or whatever it may be. Then I'll start taking on past lives. But at the moment, there is still so much more that I feel that I have to learn, to grow, to expand, to deepen in this life, that I don't really want to spend time going to the back. That information is not, to me, something that is going to be of use. What I know is I'm here because of my past karmas. Exactly how they happened, I don't know. But what I do know is that the solution to them is not going to come from my past life, it's going to come from right here, right now. And that's where, as you mentioned, the benefit of having a guru. Sometimes, a lot of times, that which keeps the guru from us is our own closed mind, our own closed heart. We think we're open to the guru, but we're shopping. we're shopping in a way that is blocking our mind and our heart from actually experiencing that presence. So if I were in your shoes, I would work much more on number one, clearing and purifying my mind and my heart so that it doesn't happen that I'm actually in the presence of the person who's supposed to be my guru and my mind is planning my next past life regression session, and so I miss it entirely. Number two, I would work on a practice of self-compassion. You've been on a spiritual path consistently for 5 years? That's fantastic. You fall and you get back up again? Welcome to being human. Ask anybody in the room who's been on a spiritual path for more than 5 minutes. And they'll tell you, yeah, you fall, you get back up again. You fall, you get back up again. It happens. You forget, you remember, you forget, you remember. You get wrapped up in Maya, you break free. You get wrapped up, you break free. This is the path we walk. And ultimately it's a path that leads to liberation. But I remember we used to take yatras, pilgrimages, to Tibet, to Lake Mansarovar and Mount Kailash, where we built 3 ashrams there. It's another story, but it's this beautiful, beautiful sacred land in Tibet that is very, very sacred to the Hindus and the Buddhists and the Bonpo, the traditional Tibetan religion. And people do a parikrama, a circumambulation around Mount Kailash. And if you're in good shape, it'll take you 3 days and 2 nights. You stop twice along the way and you're going over a pass of 19,000 something feet. It's quite challenging, so shall we say. A very, very, very difficult yatra. You've got to be in really good shape. And even then, really difficult. Like there's almost no oxygen at the top. I mention it because the Hindus go around Mount Kailash in one direction, walking. The Tibetans go in the other direction, prostrating. You will pass along the way when you do your parikrama, you will pass Tibetans. They stand, and then they go down and do Dandavat Pranam on the ground. Lying on the ground, and then they stand, and then they do Dandavat Pranam on the ground. Some of them do it 3 times in one place. I've seen some do it once, I've seen some do it 3 times in one place, then they take another step. I have no idea how long it takes them to do the parikrama like that. I mean, you imagine. I mention it because they're going down, they're getting up. They're going down, they're getting up. They're going down, they're getting up. And yet, with every time they go down and get up, they're closer to that liberation. I mean, that's why you do the Mount Kailash Parikrama. Right? It's moksha ke liye. Yeah. How many times do they go down around the... A lot. A lot of times. And with each time, they're closer and closer and freer and freer. So you forget, it's okay. Get up. Knowing that with each time that you're getting up, you're getting closer and closer and closer. And work on purifying that vision and that heart for the Guru. And until the Guru appears physically. These days, it used to be that people had to go to libraries and check out a couple of books at a time and then read them and bring them back. Now, It's all available online. Even gurus who are not in their bodies anymore, you can watch videos of them in many, many cases, read their teachings. There's so many ways to benefit from that wisdom, even until you have a guru in form. So, and still, if you want to do past life regressions, by all means, go ahead and do it. But focus on where you are right now and how to move forward, more so than what it might be that has gotten you here. It's certainly interesting. But unless the same thing that got you here is the same thing that's going to take you to the next step, then it's much more important to focus on, how do I get to the next step? How do I go where I want to go? Much more important than how did I end up where I am. Beautiful. Your second question. Oh, lovely. Wonderful. Have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your evenings, everyone. I know there were some more questions. We will take them tomorrow. I'm actually going to be giving, for those of you in the spiritual retreat, the New Year's retreat, we'll actually be having a satsang tomorrow at 11:30 in the garden. So any questions that you didn't have a chance to ask tonight, or anything that arises between now and then, we'll gather in the satsang garden at 11:30 tomorrow. And then, of course, we have tomorrow evening as well. And so